All right, we are now in Revelation chapter 13. It took us a while to get there. Chapter 12 had a lot of stuff that we had to get through to even understand what's going on in the next chapter. So here we are. I hope you'll like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. I've been picking up a couple of new followers. I'm definitely not here to try to entertain. I'm not here to try to get YouTube plaques so I can put them behind me when I'm doing a YouTube to show how many followers. I'm not into that stuff. So all I'm really wanting to do is to try to get people interested in the end times, in eschatology, and not as a hobby horse, but to actually be looking for Christ, to actually be preparing themselves and their lives for the things that are coming on this earth very quickly. And as Jesus said, they're going to happen quickly, and they're already starting to happen. We are fast approaching the unveiling, which is the word revelation, or the unfolding of these events. And look, I'm just going to say I don't have all the answers. Of course, nobody does. I am just trying to wrestle with the text and understand from a holistic view of prophecy, going all the way back to the book of Genesis, all the way through, but particularly the prophecy heavy books and chapters in the Bible that give us an understanding. And I'm trying to draw on all those things, and I'm going to miss things. I'm going to sometimes miss things, probably horribly. So the more people that I can have that are engaged with this, who can point things out to me, like I had a subscriber who a couple chapters ago brought up a really interesting question and asked me to wanted me to look into it and kind of question my own view, and I did, and it strengthened my understanding. So I welcome, I'm not welcoming people who just want to fight and call names and stuff, but I welcome people who have a different view of things and or perhaps see things I don't see, to bring them in, and I'd love to engage with you on that. So, all right, that's the introduction. Let's get into chapter 13. I saw the beast rising out of the sea with 10 horns and 7 heads, with 10 diadems on its horns and blasphemous names on its heads. And the beast that I saw was like a leopard. Its feet were like a bear's, and the mouth was like a lion's mouth. And to it, the dragon gave his power and his throne and his authority. One of its heads seemed to have a mortal wound, but its mortal wound was healed, and the whole earth marveled as they followed the beast. And they worshiped the dragon, for he had given his authority to the beast. And they worshiped the beast, saying, "Who is like the beast, and who can fight against it?" And the beast was given a mouth, uttering haughty and blasphemous words, and it was allowed to exercise authority for 42 months. It opens its mouth to utter blasphemies against God, blaspheming his name and his dwelling, that is, those who dwell in heaven. Also, it's allowed to make war on the saints and conquer them, and authority was given over to it, every tribe and people and language and nation. And all who dwell on the earth will worship it. Everyone whose names have not been written before the foundation of the world in the book of the Lamb, or the book of life of the Lamb that was slain. If anyone has an ear, let him hear. That's about halfway. Let's stop there and unpack what we got. This is the same beast that it saw in chapter 12. It also has 10 horns and 7 heads, with 10 diadems. So what do we make of this? Well, the beast itself, the entire creature, is some kind of kingdom. And we know this because it goes back to Daniel chapter 7, where we see a beast that's a fourth beast, fourth kingdom, that's different than the first 3. The first 3 were a lion with wings, which was the Babylonian Empire. Then there was the bear, that would be the Medo-Persian Empire. Then there was the leopard with 4 heads, and that would be the Grecian or the Greeks. And then the next one was a beast like none other that had 10 horns on its head and trampled the earth. And that would probably be referring to the Roman Empire. And we also remember there's also the 2 feet of the statue that Nebuchadnezzar had seen in his vision of the future kingdoms. The head of gold was Babylon. The shoulders and the breastplate the shoulders were made out of silver, and those were divided by 2. So we have the Medo-Persian Empire. Then the breastplate, I think, or the midsection was bronze, and that was the Greeks. Then the iron legs and would be Rome, and then the toes, the feet, were mixture of clay and iron. So you had 2 feet, 10 toes. And so that number 10 just keeps coming up over and over and over again here. So there's going to be 10 rulers or 10, I think these are representing actual rulers that have 10 territories that cover the face of the earth. So the earth will be divided up into it says it encompasses the entire world. So this isn't just the NATO or the European Union or something like that. This is going to be a new order that's going to come out of whatever war gets, I think it's going to be the Gog-Magog war. That whole thing is going to bring about a reset that's going to divide the earth up into 10 different regions, perhaps. And out of those 10 regions, we have 10, it says we have 7 heads with 10 diadems. And this is where it's a little confusing, because maybe it's, one of those regions has 3 leaders or 4 leaders. The others have 1. I'm not sure how it's going to be divided up. But in Daniel, we have, out of the beast with the 10 horns, there's 3 of those horns are plucked up by the roots, and another horn basically takes its place. So you see those 3 being removed. So we have, 7 left. It could be referring to this, the 7 heads with the 10 diadems. And we also see here the image of the leopard, the bear, and the lion on this beast. So it is encompassing all of those ancient empires all in one big empire. So whatever was the Babylonian, the Persian, and the Greek and Roman empires, all of them are fused into this one massive beast that's like no other beast, that has these 10 horns and 7 heads. Now, one of its heads seemed to have a mortal wound, but its mortal wound was healed. All right, so one of these heads, so it's one of these kings, or it's one of the regions that's represented by one of those kings, had a mortal head wound that seemed as if it would be, it seemed like it was done for. And the whole earth marveled and followed the beast, and they worshiped the dragon, for he had given authority to this beast. And they worshiped the beast, saying, "Who is like the beast, and who could fight against it?" Well, why would they say that? Because its mortal wound was healed. So there's something that's going to happen where one of the heads of this beast is going to be conquered. There's an allusion to this in Daniel chapter 7. Let's take a look at that real quick. All right, so Daniel chapter 7, verse 20. "And of the 10 horns that were on his head, and of the others which came up, and before whom 3 fell, even of that horn that had eyes and a mouth that spake very great things, whose look was more stout than his fellows, I beheld that same horn made war with the saints and prevailed against them, until the Ancient of Days came and judgment was given to the saints of the Most High." So what we have here is, out of those 10 horns, 3 are going to fall, and then the one of them is going to come out prominent, who has a great, mouth that speaks great and blasphemous things, and he's given authority and power to overcome the saints, which is what we also see here in Revelation chapter 13, where it says in verse 5, also is allowed to make war on the saints and conquer them. And he has authority for 42 months, blaspheming God and his people and his dwelling. So here we go. We got the same images that we see in Daniel 7 here in Revelation 13. Somehow one of these regions is going to have some turmoil where the kings, three of the kings or four, three of them are going to fall. One of them is going to subdue the other two and become the prominent one. And then that beast or that particular region is going to really make war on the saints and try to subdue them. But it's not going to just be one region. It's going to go everywhere. And then verse 10 says here, if anyone is to be taken captive, to captivity he goes. If anyone is to be slain with the sword, with the sword he must be slain. Here's a call for the endurance and faith of the saints. Luke 21:19, Jesus told the disciples that through your endurance or through your patience, you will possess your souls. This is what he's talking about right here. So something terrible is going to happen here, and it's just going to happen. Accept it. To whoever is going to be taken captive, to captivity he goes. Whoever is going to be slain, to being slain he goes. There's no way out of this. You can't change your destiny here. These things are going to happen. Brace for it. Be prepared for it. And Jesus said in Luke 21 and Matthew 24, he said, just determine in your own heart that you're going to don't even prepare for what you're going to try to say to defend yourselves. I will give you the words to say. I will give you the words to defend yourself. And that just reminds me of that. All right, verse 11. Then I saw another beast rising out of the earth. Another beast. They get kind of confusing. This one has two horns like a lamb and spoke like a dragon. So the same dragon, you see, the dragon is the devil. He tells us that in chapter 12. So he is energizing all of these beasts, all of these people. He is the energy behind all of it. He is the puppet master behind all of this. So this other beast rises up. I don't think this is a kingdom. I think this is a person who has horns like a lamb, but speaks like a dragon. And here's what he does. It exercises all authority of the first beast in its presence. Okay. And it makes the earth and its inhabitants worship the first beast whose mortal wound was healed. It performed great signs, even making fire come down from heaven in front of those people. And by these signs that it is allowed to work in the presence of the beast, it deceives those who dwell on the earth, telling them to make an image for the beast that was wounded by the sword and yet lived. So this other beast rises up when the first beast has a mortal wound and is somehow healed. And this beast performs miracles in the presence of the first beast. So this guy, who's maybe it's the false prophet that we're going to see later in chapter 16, it's probably who he's speaking of here. This beast with the horns like a ram or a lamb and speaks like a dragon is probably the false prophet. And he exercises all the same authority as the beast that had the mortal head wound. And then he makes everybody to create an image for the first beast and to worship him through it. And it causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to be marked on the right hand or the forehead, so that no one can buy or sell unless he has the mark. And no one can understand, and that is the name of the beast and the number of his name. This calls for wisdom. Let the one who has understanding calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man. His number is 666. So here we are. finally at the point where this beast whose mortal head wound is healed, the false prophet comes alongside him and props him up and tells the whole world that to worship him, and that nobody can destroy him, nobody can kill him, who can make war with him, make an image for him, and then worship him through the image. And the image will cause everybody, the image itself will cause everybody to put a mark in their head or their forehead or in their right hand. And it will control their ability to buy and sell. And if you do not take that mark, then you will be put to death. And if, wisdom and the number that's given is the number of this beast and his name. And those who can calculate the number of his name, it'll come up to 666. So that's what we're going to have to calculate when it comes to that point. When, I don't think we can figure out who he is yet. There's people who are saying, and this is interesting, there's a guy named Tim Cohen. I've not read his book, but he has a book called The Antichrist and a Cup of Tea. He claims that the name Prince Charles, or Charles the Prince of Wales, or whatever his official title is, added up in the original Greek numbers or whatever, it comes up as 666. And his crest, his coat of arms or whatever, has all the imagery of the lion, the leopard, the all of that stuff that's here. And that he has a lot of claims about this, that the guy who that Prince Charles had a statue made of himself, where it will be revealed later, and there's a miniature statue of it that's been leaked out, and he's standing on the earth with a sword with angel wings, and he's called the Savior of the world. And there's all that kind of stuff. Could Prince Charles, King Charles, be the Antichrist? I kind of laugh at that because he's such a weakling. He doesn't seem to be a beast type character. He's definitely not more stout than his fellows, as the book of Daniel says. So I don't know. I'm not going to speculate. Others have said that Ben Solomon, the guy that's in Saudi Arabia right now, his name, if you take his name and put it in the phonetics, it comes up to 666. So there's only a few people whose names will come up to that number. Not everybody, but it's hard to say right now. I'm not going to try to say who it is. I have no idea. We're not even in this world order yet. We're still living in the old post-World War II order. And there's going to be a World War III, I think is the Magog War. And that is going to bring out a reset, a new world order that will have 10 regions or 7 regions with 10 kings that are in charge of them. And 3 of them will be deposed, and 1 of them will come up as the prominent one, the one who will have the head that will be wounded and yet will be revived, and will have the false prophet who will come and have an image made of him. And later on, I think in the next few chapters, I forget which chapter it is, it says that the other kings have not reigned yet. They haven't been given all of their authority over to this man yet, but they will. So he hasn't consolidated his power yet. He's at the place where he's trying to consolidate all power to himself, so that even the other 7 kings or 6 kings or whatever's left at this point will have to give up their power to this one man. And so yeah. Now, I did a real deep dive in Daniel 11, which I'm not going to do here, but what's interesting is everything that he says in Daniel 11 comes to pass in history perfectly. And Daniel, he predicts these things a long time before they actually happen. He's in the Medo-Persian Empire, and he's speaking of things that will happen in the Greek Empire, the next generation, and they come to pass exactly. And just like there's a debate for Revelation having a late date or an early date, Daniel has the same debate. The liberal scholars like to say that Daniel was not even written by Daniel, it was written by somebody else later who looked at all those things and then looked at all that happened in history and then wrote prophecies after the fact. That is exactly what liberals do. They take things and they twist them. They turn them completely upside down, inside out, turn them topsy-turvy on their head. That is what liberals do. I have no respect for them. Zero respect for them. I don't care how scholarly they are and how many letters are behind their name. They distort the word of God. And so they do that with Daniel as well, because they don't want to admit that Daniel actually wrote a prophecy that came true to the very detail. So that's a little side note. All right, back to Daniel 11. When you go through Daniel 11, from chapter 11, verse 1 all the way to verse 35, you can track exact fulfillment during the Maccabean revolt and prior to that. All of the imagery speaks of certain characters in the Seleucid and the Ptolemy empires of the Greeks. And all of those details are perfectly fulfilled till you get to the point of about verse 36. Then the account that's given to the end of the chapter doesn't seem to match anything in history exactly. And so people have just wrestled with it. Oh, what do we do with this? What do we do with this? Maybe this is picture language now. Now it's not exact. Now it's picture language. Everybody loves to go to that when they don't know how stuff gets fulfilled. So I think it's future. I think there's a break here. And maybe there is some fulfillment in some kind of way, but most of the stuff isn't really fulfilled exactly. So in verse 36, it says, "The king shall do according to his will, and he shall exalt himself and magnify himself above every god, and shall speak marvelous things against the God of gods, and shall prosper till the indignation be accomplished. For that is determined shall be done. Neither shall he regard the God of his fathers, nor the desire of women, nor regard any God, for he shall magnify himself above all." Well, this is not what Antiochus Epiphanes did. He was honoring Zeus, the god of his fathers. But this guy is going to do something very different. He's going to set up a god that nobody's ever worshipped before. That it's not like anything that he comes from. And he will magnify himself above all. But in his estate shall he honor the God of forces, and a God whom his fathers knew not shall he honor with gold and silver and precious stones and pleasant things. Thus shall he do in the most strongholds with a strange God whom he shall acknowledge and increase with glory, and he shall cause them to rule over many, and shall divide the land for gain. And at that time of the end shall the king of the south push at him. The king of the north shall come against him like a whirlwind and chariots, and with horsemen and with many ships, and he shall enter into the countries and shall overflow and pass over. He shall enter into his glorious land, into the glorious land. So he's going to enter into Israel, and many countries shall be overthrown, but these shall escape out of his hand, even Edom and Moab and the chiefs of the children of Ammon. And he shall stretch forth his hand upon whom upon the countries and the land of Egypt shall not escape. All right, so the land of Edom and Moab, the chiefs of the children of Israel, that they will escape out of his hand. That is interesting. You know why? Because the woman in chapter 12 who escapes into the wilderness goes to a place where she is safe. And this is the place. It's the land of Edom and Moab. It's down by the Dead Sea, is where Bozrah is. It's where we see in Zechariah the Lord Jesus Christ himself coming out of Bozrah, conquering his enemies with a vesture that's stained with blood. So this is the area where the people of Israel will be held in safety. And many other countries will fall to this man, but that area will be safe. And that's where the woman will flee. And he shall stretch forth his hand also upon the countries, and the land of Egypt shall not escape. And he shall have power over the treasures of gold and silver, and over the precious things of Egypt, and the Libyans and the Ethiopians shall be at his steps. But tidings out of the east and out of the north shall trouble him. Therefore he shall go forth with great fury to destroy and utterly to make many away, to make away many. I'm reading the King James. I got my King James and my ESV here, so I'm sorry I'm mixing it up. And he shall plant his tabernacles of his palace between the seas in the glorious holy mountain. Yet he shall come to his end, and none shall help him. All right, so I think this account in Daniel 11 is speaking of what's going to happen to this beast and his mortal head wound happening right here in chapter 13. He will be slain. He's going to be going to war with a couple of these, probably some of these other horns or heads on this beast that have not submitted themselves to him, and he's going to conquer them and have them submit to him. We also see in Zechariah chapter 11, that's interesting, coincidence there, where there is a prophecy against the foolish or the wicked shepherd. Here's what he says, verse 15. And the Lord said unto me, take unto thee yet the instruments of a foolish shepherd. For lo, I have raised up a shepherd in the land, which shall not visit those that be cut off, neither shall seek the young one or heal that which was broken. Okay, he's not going to be a good shepherd. He's not going to help people. He's not going to care about the wounded or whatever, nor feed that which standeth still. He shall eat the flesh of the fat and tear their claws in pieces. So he's going to eat the sheep, okay? Woe to the idle shepherd that leaveth the flock. The sword shall be upon his arm and upon his right eye. His arm shall be clean dried up, and his right eye shall be utterly darkened. Mortal head wound. There it is. So in Zechariah, we see this foolish shepherd, this one who treads and just eats the sheep and tramples everywhere he goes. He will have his arm, okay, we have the right hand, and his right eye, or the forehead. Both parts of the body here are mentioned. He will have a mortal head wound. And where the image of the beast makes people take his mark are on the right hand and on the forehead, in commemoration of the mortal head wound of this man. And I don't remember who I heard it from. It probably was Aaron Fochman in his Book of Revelation series that he did. That why the right hand and why the right eye? Because he's going to be struck right there, and he's going to shield himself, and it's going to get him in the hand and go right through into his eye, and it's going to kill him. What is going to do this? What is going to be this fatal blow? I think that fatal blow is going to come in the next chapter, as it'll be described in the next chapter, because that is when I believe is the return of Jesus Christ. And when Christ comes, he's going to strike him down. But it's not over. He's going to have this false resurrection, this fake resurrection. He has a false prophet, a forerunner, so to speak, like Jesus had John the Baptist. He's going to have this death and then false resurrection, just like Jesus had a real death, but in a real resurrection. And he's going to cause everybody to follow him. and worship him, just like Jesus has commanded everybody to worship him because he's truly God. And then he's going to reign for 42 months. Or Daniel says, time, times, and half a time. So this is where the rest of the book is going. That's why I think we're at the midpoint right here. That's why I think when Christ returns, he's going to come at the middle of the 7 years, the dividing of time, the dividing of the 7 years. And that when Christ returns, and shortly after the abomination of desolation, he's either going to pre-rapture his people out before that happens, or he's going to do it right when he returns, rapture them out, kill the Antichrist, rescue the people of Israel, take them to the land of Moab that is safe from this Antichrist, this king, this beast, and defend them and hide them there while the rest of his wrath is poured out on the earth, and until Armageddon, when he actually destroys the beast, the false prophet, the Antichrist, destroys them all, throws them into hell. So we will move on to chapter 14 in the next one. So we'll see you then. Thanks.